you're going to answer.
Who is this?
You know.
The call after midnight. Marek Kowalski couldn't remember the last time he'd slept until dawn. His work as a freelance programmer allowed him to live by his own schedule, and that schedule had long since dissolved into perpetual night. Code came easier in darkness, when the city slept, when no one distracted him with messages or calls. His fourth-floor apartment in an old panel building had become his fortress, nothing unnecessary here, nothing that reminded him of the past. A year had passed since the divorce. Anna had taken her things, leaving empty shelves and a silence that initially frightened him but eventually became familiar. Marek convinced himself it was better this way, no obligations, no need to explain why he was awake again, why he stared at his monitor instead of talking. Solitude was a choice, a controlled state. He'd built rules: work until 3 in the morning, shower, attempt sleep to the sound of the city outside his window. That evening, when it all began, he was finishing another project. His fingers moved across the keyboard mechanically, his mind already shutting down. Outside the window, the city slowly dimmed, lights in neighboring buildings vanished one by one. Marek glanced at the clock in the bottom right corner of his screen, 11:47 p.m. Still a bit longer, and he could send the files to his client, close the laptop, try to find sleep in a bed that felt too large for one person. Right at midnight, his phone vibrated on the nightstand. The screen illuminated the bedroom darkness with cold blue light. Marek didn't notice the call immediately. He was finishing the last line of code when the vibration became more insistent. The phone glowed on the nightstand by the bed, and something about that light was wrong, too bright, too demanding. He stood, reached for the device, and froze when he saw the number on the screen. It was his own number. Marek blinked, rubbed his eyes. Probably a network glitch, a technical error. Such things happened. Carriers sometimes produced strange bugs, especially at night when the system was overloaded. He wanted to decline the call, but his hand moved toward the green button on its own. Curiosity proved stronger than logic. Hello. He brought the phone to his ear. In the receiver came slow, deep breathing. Not harsh, not threatening, just breathing, rhythmic, barely audible. Marek felt a chill run down his spine. He listened, trying to catch any other sound, street noise, voices, music, but nothing. Only breathing. "Who is this?" he asked, already knowing there would be no answer. And then the voice finally spoke. Low, calm, painfully familiar. "You're not sleeping yet." Marek jerked the phone away from his ear as if burned. The voice. His own voice. Not an exact copy, something in the intonation was different, slightly slower, slightly deeper, but it was him. He recognized the timbre, the pronunciation, even the barely noticeable hoarseness that appeared when he hadn't drunk water in a while. He didn't finish. The connection cut off. The screen went dark, leaving silence in the room that felt thicker than the darkness. Marek sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the phone in his hand. His heart beat too loudly. He opened the call log. The last incoming call showed his own number, duration, 32 seconds. Technical glitch. That was the only rational explanation. Perhaps some error in the caller ID system. Marek was a programmer, he understood how networks worked, bugs happened constantly. And the voice, did he actually remember what his own voice sounded like? People never heard themselves the way others did. Maybe it was just someone similar. He placed the phone back on the nightstand but couldn't look away from it. The black screen reflected the streetlight from the window, and that reflection resembled an eye, watching. Marek stood, approached the window. Below, an empty street, not a living soul. The neighboring windows dark. The city slept, but he didn't. As always. He pulled the curtain closed, returned to bed. Sleep wouldn't come. He lay staring at the ceiling, counting seconds. When the clock showed 1 in the morning, he finally closed his eyes. But the image of that call didn't fade. And the voice, his voice, continued to echo somewhere on the edge of consciousness. The next day, Marek tried to convince himself that nothing had happened. He woke late, his head aching from lack of sleep. The sun already hung high, breaking through thin curtains. He made coffee, sat at his laptop, opened the project, but the code wouldn't write itself. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, thoughts scattered. Every time the phone made a sound, a message, a notification, anything, he flinched. That evening, Marek checked his phone settings. He reviewed the list of blocked numbers, call history, apps that might have microphone access. Everything looked normal. He even called customer support, but they assured him there had been no technical failures. The consultant spoke monotonously, dully, and Marek didn't bother explaining details. How could he say he'd heard his own voice on the phone? When the clock hands approached midnight, he sat in the living room, watching the phone on the table. The screen was dark, quiet. Marek told himself this was absurd, waiting for a call that wouldn't come. It had been a coincidence, an anomaly. Such things don't repeat. At exactly 12, the phone vibrated. The screen flared. Incoming call. His number. Marek went cold. His fingers trembled when he picked up the device. This time he didn't answer immediately. He watched as the call continued, 3 rings, 4, 5. The unknown caller didn't hang up. Marek swallowed, pressed the green button, and remained silent, waiting. The voice spoke immediately, without pause, as if it knew Marek would answer. "You're afraid. Why are you afraid?" The intonation was calm, almost friendly. But mockery could be felt in it, some hidden joy. Marek squeezed the phone harder. "Who are you?" His own voice came out hoarse. "You know who I am," the answer came without hesitation. "You talk to yourself every night. Why are you scared now?" His heart pounded. Marek wanted to say something, but words stuck in his throat. In the receiver came breathing again, slow, deep. And then the voice added, almost in a whisper. "I see you sitting there. The light is on. Why aren't you sleeping, Marek?" He spun around sharply, scanning the room. Empty living room, closed curtains, no movement. No one could see him. He approached the window, yanked the curtain aside. Below, the same empty street, not a person, not a car. "Stop," he whispered into the phone. "Whoever you are, stop." The connection cut off. Silence returned, heavy and sticky as a spider's web. Marek threw the phone on the couch, stepped back. His hands trembled. He could call the police, but what would he say? That someone's calling from his number and speaking in his voice. They'd think him insane. Perhaps he was losing his mind. A year of solitude, sleepless nights, constant time in front of screens, maybe this had finally broken something in his psyche. The phone vibrated again, but this time not a call. A message. Marek approached, looked at the screen. One simple sentence from an unknown number, but the number was his own. "I see the light in your window." He slowly raised his head, looked at the window. The curtain was still pulled aside. Beyond the glass, darkness, but in the reflection, in the weak mirroring of the room's light, he saw a silhouette. His own silhouette. But it moved with a delay, 1 second later than himself. Marek stepped back. The reflection did the same, but with a pause. He raised his hand, the reflection raised its own, but not synchronously. His double in the glass smiled, though Marek himself wasn't smiling. The phone vibrated again. New message. "Now you won't sleep." Marek didn't remember how he ended up in another room. He stood in the middle of the bedroom, clutching his phone so hard his fingers had gone numb. His breathing came in gasps, heart beating somewhere in his throat. He no longer looked at windows. All curtains were tightly drawn, but it didn't help. The feeling of a foreign gaze didn't disappear, it seeped through walls, through darkness, through his own thoughts. On the third night, he decided not to answer. When the clock hands approached midnight, Marek silenced his phone, placed it face down on the table, and moved to the opposite end of the room. He sat in a chair, arms wrapped around his knees, staring at the device like a bomb with a timer. At exactly 12, the phone lit up. The screen pulsed blue, even upside down. The vibration lasted longer than usual, an endless series of short impulses that resembled a heartbeat. Marek counted seconds, 30, 40, 1 minute. The call wouldn't stop. He clenched his teeth, trying not to look, but the light pulsed in his peripheral vision, penetrated the silence with an invisible sound. When the vibration finally stopped, the device froze for a few seconds. Then lit up again. A message. Then another. And another. The screen flashed like a machine that had lost control. Marek rose, approached the table. His hands shook as he flipped the phone over. On the screen, rows of messages, all from his own number. "Why won't you answer?" "I'm waiting." "You think this will help?" "I know you're afraid." "Answer. Answer." The last message was in capital letters. Marek stepped back, but the phone vibrated again. This time a call. He didn't want to, but his hand reached out on its own, as if someone else controlled his body. He accepted the call. "Why are you hiding from yourself, Marek?" The voice sounded closer, as if speaking not from the phone but from the room, from behind his back. Marek spun around sharply. Empty bedroom. No one. But the voice continued. "You think this is someone else. But it's always been you. How many nights have you sat here, alone with yourself, replaying the same thoughts? How many times have you asked yourself why Anna left? Why you're always alone? I am your answer." "You're not me," Marek whispered, but there was no confidence in his voice. "I'm the part you don't want to see. I'm the one who doesn't sleep when you try to fall asleep. I'm the one looking from the reflection. You created me from all those nights when you stayed alone with your fears. Now I'm strong enough to speak." The phone fell from Marek's hands, but the voice didn't stop. It echoed through the room, as if coming from the walls, from the ceiling, from his own head. "You can't run from me. Wherever you go, I'll be there. Because I am you." The light in the room flickered. Then went out. In the darkness, Marek heard breathing, not his own. It was nearby, an inch from his face. When the light returned, Marek stood before the mirror in the bathroom. He didn't remember getting here. Water flowed from the tap, cold and monotonous. His reflection looked at him, but something about it was wrong. The eyes seemed empty, the face, foreign. He touched the glass, and the reflection touched back, but with that same 1-second delay. The phone lay on the floor by the door. The screen glowed. Marek picked it up, saw a list of missed calls, 28 in the last hour. All from his number. He could throw the phone away, smash it, be rid of it forever, but it made no sense. He knew this. The voice didn't come from the phone. It came from inside. Marek dialed Anna's number. Long rings, then her sleepy voice. Marek? What time is it? Anna, he spoke quietly, trying to stay calm. Something's wrong with me. I don't know what's happening to me. Pause. He heard her stirring, sitting up in bed. What happened? Concern appeared in her voice. I hear a voice. My voice. It calls me every night. It knows everything I think. Marek fell silent, realizing how absurd this sounded. Marek, when did you last sleep properly? Anna spoke carefully, like a psychologist with a patient. Are you staying up all night again? This isn't about sleep. He almost shouted. I'm not making this up. I see myself in the mirror, but it's not me. The silence on the other end of the line grew heavier. Marek, listen to my voice, Anna spoke slowly, clearly. You need help. Real help. You're overworked, You don't believe me, he interrupted her, his voice breaking. No one will believe. I believe it's hard for you. But what you're describing, she didn't finish. Something changed in the receiver. Anna fell silent for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was different. Slower. Deeper. You wanted me to stay, Marek. But you never said so. You were always silent. Marek jerked the phone from his ear, staring at the screen. The call was still ongoing. Anna was still on the line. But the voice he'd just heard, it wasn't her voice. It was his. He ended the call, dropped the phone. It shattered on the floor, the screen cracking into a star-shaped web. But even through the cracks, the light continued to pulse. Taras Shevchuk heard the scream at 3 a.m. He woke, listened, through the wall came fragmented phrases, something like a conversation, but there was only one voice. That same neighbor, the programmer who always sat in his apartment with the lights off. Lately, strange sounds came from there, as if someone talked to themselves for hours. Taras got up, went to his apartment door, listened in the corridor. Silence. Then another scream, sharp, desperate. He knocked on the neighbor's door. No one answered. He knocked harder. Inside, something fell, shattered. Taras stepped back, dialed the police number, but then changed his mind. Maybe the man was just unwell. Maybe he needed help, not cops. He shoved the door with his shoulder. The lock was old, gave way after a few hits. The apartment inside was dark, except for flickering light from the bedroom. Taras entered, looking around. Neighbor? Are you all right? No one answered. He walked to the bedroom, pushed the door open. Marek stood with his back to him, before a shattered mirror. Shards everywhere. On the floor, a broken phone still emitting a signal. Neighbor, what happened? Taras stepped closer. Marek slowly turned around. His face was calm, but his gaze, empty. He smiled, and Taras shuddered, not understanding why. Everything's fine, Marek said quietly. I finally answered the call. Behind him, in the broken mirror shards, the reflection smiled differently. Its lips moved, forming words 1 second before Marek himself spoke. And when Therese noticed this, the phone on the floor vibrated again. Incoming call. From Marek's number. But Marek wasn't moving. His reflection reached toward the screen.